One night, a noble woman was wandering around the ball and dropped her handkerchief. The man who saw what happened and rushed to grab the handkerchief and return it. But before he could finish what he was about to say, he was mesmerized by the lady's appearance and beauty. The man blushed and stuttered. Before he could fully hand over the handkerchief to the lady said, "I don't need that anymore. Please throw it for me." The man, still blushing and confused by the brief encounter of the lady, suddenly had men rushing over, urging him to hand over the handkerchief. They started clamoring and crowded the man. Before they could do anything, the man sniffed heavily at the handkerchief in his hand, making the other men go wild and mad. The lady walked away at the disgusting sight of men fighting like wild beasts over her belonging. She hated this life and disgusted by it. She thought nothing could be more dreadful than this. Her name is Grosetta Gaetani, the only daughter of Count Gaetani and the woman rumored to put everyone under her spell. But it was only recently, at least, not too long ago, she was just an ordinary office worker. An ordinary office worker, or more like, less than an ordinary office worker, grew up with her father that was practically a stranger to her. She couldn't fit in with her co-workers, nor can she blend in with her so-called friends. She had always been curious what it was like if she was one of those people who shined brightly that everyone paid attention to and looked at. What is it like to be loved by everyone you meet? She thought. But she knew that it was a completely different story from hers. One day, she discovered a VR fantasy romance game. It was a game where you become a lady from a noble family and try to win over 3 male leads with different personalities. The first male lead is the playboy crown prince, the second male lead is the misanthrope duke, and the third male lead is the devout holy knight. Choose one of the 3 male leads, make him fall in love with you, and achieve a happy ending. She bought the VR game and played it instantly. As she watched the introductory video a few times, she thought that the characters looked oddly strange. But what surprised her are the female leads that she can choose from to proceed with the game. The first female lead is the lovable daughter of a duke with a cheerful appearance and shining charisma. She has 3 older brothers with sister complex, a dashing father, and a fanatical bodyguard that will help her win over the male leads. The difficulty of the game when this female lead is chosen is 2 stars, making winning the male leads easier. The second female lead is the graceful saint. She is a saint admired by the empire, extremely affluent, and can exercise control over her order of holy knights, and can use her devotion to activate a special ability. The difficulty of the game when this female lead is chosen is 3 stars, higher than the last one, but not as extremely difficult. The first 2 female leads ignited the interest of the office worker and made the game seem so much fun to play. That was until she noticed the third female lead and wondered what her backstory was, since she looked different than the other 2. The third female lead is the despised daughter of a count, hated by her own father, the only daughter of the count that was born out of wedlock, engaged in an arranged marriage with one of the extra characters. Her fiancé is indifferent towards her, and she was looked down by her maids. The difficulty of the game when this female lead is chosen is 6 stars, making it the most difficult level of the game. Despite all of the red flags, the office worker girl didn't care, for she was the character that relates so much to the office worker's life. After choosing the third female lead, a floating screen popped up that shows all the ability stats available to choose for the character. She chose the charm ability and raised it to the max level, thinking it would make the game easier to just make everyone fall in love with the character she chose. After choosing her character's ability, another screen briefly popped up saying that her settings might pose an obstruction to smooth gameplay. But she just brushed off this warning as the game started shortly. When she opened her eyes, she woke up in the body of the third female lead, Crosetta. She was completely amazed by the beauty of Crosetta as she looked at herself in the mirror, thinking that it was the same girl that was neglected and looked down on. After fussing over the game's good quality, some of her maids arrived holding a bucket of water, saying that they prepared her washing bowl without knowing the real intention behind this. In a brief moment, one of her maids purposely splashed the water right at her face, saying she tripped over her foot and it was an accident and wasn't intentional. Crosetta slowly opened her eyes as the water ran down her face and had a brief eye contact with her maids. She was shocked as soon as she opened her eyes as she saw the shocked looks on her maids' faces. She wondered why they were looking at her with such looks when they were supposed to look at her with disgust. Before she could even process what was happening, her maids suddenly ran towards her with worry and crowded her, feeling guilty, thinking, how could they have done something terrible for such a fine and beautiful lady? Cressida was shocked and confused by the new treatment of the people around her, but soon discovered that it was due to the charm ability that she chose. Cressida enjoyed the attention and the looks of the people after looking into her eyes, for this has been her dream to experience this kind of attention and love. Her fiancé, who was indifferent towards her and was thinking of calling off the marriage, had one look of her eyes, suddenly fell head over heels, and confessed his love to her. Cressida was amused by the drastic change of her fiancé's attitude, but she had no intention of marrying him because she has 3 male leads to make them fall in love with her and choose from. Later that night, the office worker, now Cressida, thought that the game was so realistic that it's actually making her feel tired and thinking about playing again after sleeping. Before falling into a deep slumber, the thought crossed her mind, how do I log out of this game? After a few hours of sleep, Cressida woke up hearing people's voices. When she opened her eyes and looked right at the end of the bed, she saw the staffs of her manor crowding her. She jumped and shouted at the shocking sight of people inside her room. The creepy looks of her servants scared and confused her why they were acting like some animals. Some of her servants said, when I can't see you, you keep popping up in my head, my lady. You smell so nice, my lady. Another one said, look at me, my lady. These obsessive and creepy statements of her servants made her ran away from her room hurriedly. Just when she opened the door of her room, the sight of her fiancé holding a sword right behind her door scared her as to what he'll about to do. Before she could even think about anything else, the servants that came running after her was stabbed ruthlessly by her fiancé and said, she smiled at me. Only me. You got that? He also confessed his love to her while stabbing the other servants in front of Cressida. Cressida couldn't stand the horrid sight and ran outside to find a man offering to help her get away from the massacre. The man expressed his concerns about her fiancé that killed the house servants marrying her. At first, she doubted if he was normal and wasn't affected by the charm, but since it seems like he wasn't, she was relieved. She trusted him and followed him only to find herself wandering into the woods with a man that was practically a stranger. Suddenly, the man grabbed and hugged her, saying that this way, I can have you for myself forever, and jumped into the river along with Cressida. Before Cressida could even process everything, she fell into the river with a loud splash. Thankfully, she survived the fall and soon realized that people would go crazy just after looking into her eyes. She was appalled and tried so hard to log out of the game, but it was no use. She couldn't get out no matter what. It's like she possessed Cressida's body or was reincarnated as Cressida. What scared her even more is the fact that whatever will be Cressida's ending will also be her ending. When Cressida came back to her senses and returned home, the Gaetani household's knights had already dealt with the situation. The servants who entered her bedroom last night had already been replaced. The next morning, Cressida was summoned by her father. Cressida wondered how he would react, since the character's information screen showed that Cressida is basically invisible to her own father. When she arrived in Count Gaetani's office, the Count said, "What a relief you were alive," with a sound of worry in his voice. Although Cressida was already expecting a change in the Count's attitude, she was shocked by the drastic change of Count Gaetani's treatment towards her. The Count leaned in forward, looking at her intently and holding her chin, asking her, "Is that a scratch on your face?" This exact act of Count Gaetani proved Cressida that her 999 charm points really took an effect on people. The Count proceeded to tell her that it's better to stay in the family tower to keep the last incident from happening again. But this only creeped Cressida, as the Count wanted her to stay inside the tower forever. The so-called love from her father is actually kind of a sick obsession over his daughter. Cressida was distraught by this, as it is like imprisoning her forever. The Count told her not to worry, for it is for her own good and to protect her, but she knew it was a sick obsession. The Count told her that he was a fool to not have realized the real danger sooner, and told her that he loved her. Instead of being happy, Crocetta was scared, for she is not used to this kind of treatment even in her former life as an office worker. Crocetta shoved the Count away and told him that all of this is too sudden and to give her time to consider. Crocetta ran out of the room before engaging into the conversation more. She knew that the affection the Count is showing her are all fake. In her room, Crocetta thought how horrible it would be to stay trapped in the family tower as the Count's daughter forever, and if she continued to stay in the manor of her father, he might take her by force. Crocetta wondered for a while what she would do to escape her father's grasp. Then she thought, if she had really been sucked into the game's world, then maybe achieving one of the game's goal to win one of the male leads over will give her an ending. A thought also crossed her mind that if she met her ending as Crocetta, she might also return to her original world. As she kept on thinking about possible ways to achieve an ending, a knock was heard from her door. It was the new servant, Jack, asking if he could come inside her room. Crocetta hesitated, fearing that what happened last time might happen again. But I haven't met him, she pondered. People became obsessed with me after seeing my eyes. Now what would happen if someone met me without seeing my eyes? Crocetta thought. Crocetta invited the servant in while hiding behind a screen divider and warned him not to come any closer. The servant told her about the Imperial Ball and asked if she would be attending. The Imperial Ball is the largest ball where all nobilities will attend, and it is the first Imperial Ball that will be held in years. Crocetta tried to act natural talking about the Imperial Ball that will be held in the morrow, and thought if it would be all right to attend with the level of charm she has. I'll think about it, she told the servant. The servant thought that she is fussy and being extra for putting a screen divider, but Crocetta couldn't care less, as she had concluded that people don't get obsessed if they haven't seen her eyes. She also found out that by closing her eyes, people won't get affected by her charm. Crocetta locked her bedroom door before going to bed to make sure that what happened last time won't happen again. A ball with a lot of people will be dangerous, but it will be likely that the male leads will be there. What should I do? Crocetta thought. Just as Crocetta was lost in her thoughts, she heard a knock from her door. She thought maybe it was the butler. Crocetta, the person at the other side of the door say. Immediately, she recognized this voice. It was her father. Can I come in? Her father said. She remained silent. Crocetta! The Count yelled and banged on her door hard. After a while, Crocetta still remained silent despite the fear. She must be asleep, the Count thought, and finally left. Crocetta fell back in relief after holding her breath in fear of her father. There's no time to think this through. I have to do whatever it takes to get out of this house, she thought. The incident with her father shook her so much that she decided to attend the ball despite the risks. She'll never find a way out if she stayed and hide. She has to make contact with the male leads at the ball to escape her traumatizing father. At the ball, people kept talking about the Imperial and the person that will be attending too. Amidst the whispers and gossiping of the ladies, Lady Gaetani made her entrance. The nobles were shocked to see the bastard girl attending the ball, and she must have attended just to the food. It must be amusing to see her humiliate herself, one noble lady said. Despite the insulting and humiliating remarks of the people, Crocetta didn't care. Her goal is to make contact with the male leads and hopefully achieve an ending. Crocetta managed to get through the crowds without making eye contact with any of the people inside the ball. That was until she noticed a group of noble ladies swarming around someone. And that person is one of the male leads, the Crown Prince, Etienne Eugene Lordinique, the only direct heir to the throne, with the looks and talents of someone smiled upon by God. He has the heart of every lady in the empire, and enjoys it just a little too much. Crocetta wondered how to approach him. Seeing him surrounded by a bunch of ladies made it seem impossible to get his attention. Lady Gaetani. A lady called her from behind. Who is this? Is this someone Crocetta knows? Crocetta thought. The ladies swarmed her and kept throwing insults under the pretext of asking her about her dress. Crocetta avoided their eyes and kept on looking at her feet, until one lady grabbed her face using her hand fan and told Crocetta to look at her. This action of the lady made Crocetta and her to make eye contact, and Crocetta had no choice but to get along with it. Suddenly, the lady started to get freaky and scared her, wondering what she'll do. Crocetta decided to ask one of the guards for help, but she accidentally made eye contact with him, and this caused the guard to get under her charm ability. I love you, Lady Gaetani. He jumped at her and hugged forcefully. Crocetta tried to get out of his hold, but the people around her pulled her, and another lady even kissed, creating a huge scene. Thankfully, the Crown Prince noticed this and pulled Crocetta to the side. The Crown Prince told the people to behave appropriately, and they must have scared Lady Gaetani. The Crown Prince took Crocetta outside to get some fresh air and asked the people to make some way. I brought you outside because you seem to be in trouble. Should I not have? The Crown Prince asked. Crocetta expressed her gratitude towards the Crown Prince for helping her out and thought, if it weren't for the Crown Prince, it would have been much worse. But her thought was soon interrupted when she realized how dangerous her situation is with the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is known as the Empire's playboy, and she now at a dark and secluded area all alone with the Crown Prince. Who knows what he might do? Crocetta thought maybe running away would be for the better, but it would also mean that she would miss her chance with one of the male leads. If the Crown Prince locks eyes with me, he'd sure to fall in love. Crocetta thought and looked into the Crown Prince's eyes full of hope and anticipation that the Crown Prince might fall for her like how the other people do. The Crown Prince looked at Crocetta and smiled. He reached his hand out and held Crocetta's hand gently in his hand. My lady, he said, and leaned closer to match her height. The Crown Prince continued to say, will you grant me the honor of your first dance?